My early days of filmmaking were that of seclusion. Images flashing through my mind during high school classes, analysis of why the latest Spider-Man movie was an atrocity, flickering through my head to keep me up at night. My brain didn't stop moving, but neither did my loneliness. I had things in my head that I wanted to get out, but I couldn't. Hi, my name is Tazio LeVeque, the director of Winner Take All, the student film, and I'm here with you to talk about film school. Having spent the majority of my senior year of high school digging around the swim team, working on movies, and pursuing hopeless romantics, trivial things like grades and SATs were not even remotely on my radar. You don't need college to make a movie, right? Wrong. At least for 17-year-old me. That is because filmmaking is not something that you can just do by yourself, at least forever. You need people to make movies, a resource that I just did not have. So I did the only thing that a high schooler at the brink of the rest of his life knows how. I visited a nearby cheap college that does not require an SAT or good grades and applied exclusively to that school, betting all of my chips and my entire future on getting accepted to this school that has a 21% acceptance rate. Needless to say, I got in. To do so, I wrote an essay prompt asking about someone that inspires me and used Martin Scorsese, citing both his passion for the medium's capabilities and work in promoting and preserving foreign language pictures and lost films. And I also recorded an application video about how great I am about filmmaking. Arriving at orientation, I got to meet my class of 15 other students and explored the great city of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Everything was just as I expected, maybe even better. The way the teachers described the program, being very focused on hands-on work and getting set experience, while having classes focus on each job, was more than exciting, and I felt like my life was finally moving forward. Then you get to the first semester of classes, and of course you don't really do much because they mostly cover the basics, so a lot of the stuff I was learning I already knew, although it was still fun. I had long talks with my film history professor who taught production courses, screenwriting, directing, and foreign language film, as well as having 5 feature-length movies under his belt, the great Joshua Cortade. The most valuable project we did this semester was play minor roles in a short film that he was directing, actually, and we got to learn all the positions and how a set works, the set lingo, and set etiquette, as we call it, the etiquette on the set, as well as the set hierarchy. During this, I was the second assistant camera, which mostly meant that I ran the slate. It was a hell of a time, and we were going to use the footage that we shot as an editing assignment for the next semester's editing course. The other valuable thing we did this semester was write short scripts that for the next semester we would be picking up to adapt, and so birthed my idea of doing a poker film. Our second semester was much more productive, with editing and cinematography courses that actually taught us things about different lighting and cutting theory, and of course our production class, which was entirely focused on making a 5-minute student film. My script was one of the 2 that got picked to adapt, and of course I wanted to direct it as well, so the entire class got to critiquing the script to make it better. The only major change we made was that in the original draft we revealed that the villain was cheating and decided to focus more on protagonist to make for a more dramatic story than something that's like purely based energy and fun. Taking inspiration from a story my cinematographer told us about her dad, I actually decided to focus more on the protagonist's gambling addiction than just being a fun poker game. To do this, I wanted to structure the film to be getting the audience invested in a world of poker to make it seem as exciting and addicting as the protagonist does, before then ripping that lighter tone out from under the rug to reveal the higher dramatic stakes at the midpoint. I was also drawn to doing a poker film because I'm a big fan of capturing how we read and control other people and wanted to try and do this visually without a lot of dialogue. My original shot list was very inspired by the likes of early Paul Thomas Anderson and the film Babylon, which we had just seen in theaters, and there was a lot of bold movement and quick cuts, knowing when to slow down to juxtapose energy. But working with my assistant director, Ian Fawcett, I cut my shot list of like 60 to 80 shots in half down to around 40, thinking I could totally get those done in a day because of how fast I worked on my previous projects. And after becoming a little more aware of how long it takes to get shots on like a proper set protocol, I cut it down to 20 shots, so not really what I was originally planning at all. I also had an art director for this film, and we used some set walls that were in the sound stage at the school to paint over, and decided to turn it into a poker room, making this easily the biggest production I had done up until this point. I worked with Chrysantha on crafting lighting around this set, and that would effectively light each character in a way that seems natural but also dramatic enough. And to set the light for all 4 actors, we used 4 points of cross-lighting, using the backlighting of one character to be the key or fill light of another character. We held auditions where almost nobody showed up, and I ended up finding my lead actor on Facebook, with casting friends as the rest of the cast. This was the most dialogue-heavy film I had done, and I also wanted nuances in how these characters read each other, and settled for a little less nuance than I would have liked. But the rehearsals were very helpful in making me feel prepared for the day on set, where I wouldn't have to direct them nearly as much since I already got them to do what I was looking for before they even walked onto set. During this time, we actually ended up making some short films entirely on our own, which you can see on this channel, using the method we now refer to as raw dog films, that you do completely without preparation, or as little preparation as possible, and not really following set protocol. And we concluded that the raw dog films were probably better than the ones that we were doing at school, which felt very processed. And the raw dog films would be free of any guidelines that were set in stone by the school, like cannot have negative portrayals of homeless people and can't have graphic content. But it was going to be nice having a large crew with multiple people in each department doing things I wouldn't have to worry about myself on set because they were doing it for me, and I could focus on the creative directing process. The final steps of pre-production, and where the majority of a film like this budget goes into, was ordering food for the cast and crew. During the shoot, we shot 2 short films. On Tuesday, we shot Luke's short, The Regulars, which actually co-starred my mom, and on Wednesday would be my turn at directing. On Luke's set, I was once again the second assistant camera, and I got to observe how this set was ran and all the problems they might run into and build a better plan for the next day. My mom gave me some pretty extreme words of encouragement, saying that even in my small job position, just watching me work, she could tell that I could do everyone else's jobs better or something like that.
Pardon me.
And I went into the next day very optimistic. I showed up to my own set early that day at 8:15, and we go through the usual procedures, introducing each crew member to the actors, showing them where the bathroom is, giving a rundown on set terminology, and got to work, moving the walls and moving the equipment and going over lines to set up that first shot. When planning out the order to do your shots, you typically shoot wider and then move in close, and here we organized it by which direction the camera would be facing, so we had to move the camera as little as possible, on top of putting all the shots that use specific movements together. We had also planned to get a few minor shots breaking the 180 that would require moving the walls at one point. My direction for each of these shots were pretty complex, and I made the mistake of planning a dolly shot despite having never set up or used a real dolly before. And by the time it was set up, I realized it wasn't the right height as the table, and I just couldn't adjust it. And so I doubled that time that it would take to set it up by trying to use a different dolly, and then toyed with the idea of raising the table instead, and it was very time-consuming. With all the teachers watching me and critiquing me for paying attention to this instead of working with my actors, and letting the assistant director and the director of photography handle it. Before I knew it, almost 3 hours of set time had been wasted, and we were just starting to get our first shot, with the lights not even really being perfect. That first stretch of shots were really rough, but I was having a blast running between my actors in the art department and the AD and the DP to make sure that everything was good for the next take, and also talking with the prop master about an unexpected drawback of having to keep continuity with all the props with poker chips and cards, which luckily I didn't have to worry about because the prop department was so good. By the time lunch comes around, we had only accomplished a few shots, and I met with my DP, Chrysantha, and my AD, Ian, to discuss our game plan to finish this movie before our hard out at 5:30. So I started scrapping shots that would require moving the walls, and I combined a bunch of shots and simplified the shoot immensely. Even the problem solving done on the break was a rush of adrenaline for me, and my nerves weren't letting me eat a lot during the break. I was ready to get back on set. When we got back to the second half of the day, we picked it up immensely, and I was just on a roll, getting shot after shot, and it was the most exciting thing ever, and I knew that this was going to be what I would do for the rest of my life. It was so fun. And most importantly, we made the day and got out of the building before it shut down, though I reluctantly had to cut the opening shot I had in mind after much debate with my assistant director. Unlike all my other movies, I had an editor for this film, Josh, and worked very, very closely with him to find something that might resemble what I was going for initially, even though we had significantly less shots than I had planned for while writing it. He had very different instincts than me while editing, and though he is a great editor and probably would have made the movie better, he did make it the best he can with me holding strong on certain things that he disagreed with. And honestly, it was very easy to work with. We had a great collaboration, and we both brought good ideas to it, and I think that the movie definitely turned out the best that it can be based on what we shot. We color graded the film to something that was much stronger contrast and popping colors and got a look that I really liked. Searched far and wide for unlicensed music that might work for the film. Poured through the sound files to line up the dialogue. And worked for like 10 hours on this thing, probably more, but like that's probably much like I was with him. Editing dialogue scenes is a whole different beast to tame than anything I've done before. It involves poring over every take of a shot to make sure both the cut is impactful and the take is good, and each shot needs to work well with the next and the one before. Different takes might work better with different performances, or be good in some areas but sacrificing others, and pacing and time of different takes can change a lot too. I think I sat with Josh for 8 hours for one day just going through all of this. After the shoot, we had to get another shot for something I had in mind with the opening, and overhead of the poker table rotating down as the cards are dealt. A shot that was way too ambitious for our budget. But I wanted to see what we could do, so I got one of our actors back to deal the cards and shot it after school, taking it to Josh to work his magic, and it really is probably the best part of the film. Keyframes upon keyframes upon keyframes, he gives us a pretty neat title sequence that I'm pretty happy with, and delivered me a movie that was watchable even if I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. So, thank you, Josh. What I learned from film school is that you can probably learn everything you're going to learn online or by going out and like actually meeting people. So it's probably not worth the money unless you want a very specific technical job. But that's kind of true for all of college, I've learned. So for me, I went to film school for a different kind of experience. The experience of meeting and collaborating with people that shared my passions for filmmaking. And I got the best of that. Seeing work come together through the effort and visions of so many people, even if the end product isn't what you wanted, is really magical, and I liked it so much I started planning for another film shoot with these guys over the summer, and was eagerly anticipating my next year of Compass College of Cinematic Arts.